Don't you touch that mouse. Gun Talk's not done yet, not by a long shot. Thanks for hanging around. Man, have we got a treat for you. This is the Gun Talk After Show. This is what we call, down in Louisiana, lagniappe. A little something extra for free. This is where you can call in and ask those questions that are maybe too hot for the radio, or just take a little extra time to explain. So, welcome back in, Tom, Jim Kinsey, our show producer, Michael, and Michelle. Let's do this, guys. Take it away.
All right, we're in the after show now, where we have to tame it down from what we talk about between the breaks here, because it gets a little bit bizarre around here. We have Michael, Michelle, Jim, and our callers, and we're going to have some fun today. How you guys doing?
Hello.
Awesome.
Good. Now, Michelle, you do the call a friend thing. You actually cheat because of your family is so knowledgeable on this stuff. So when you have a question, we had a caller had a question, and you were filling them in on that, right?
Well, it's just the lifeline. I don't know that it's a cheat. It's a call a friend request in the millionaire game.
That's right. He says, okay, we all look around and go, nobody knows anything about this one? Oh, okay, Michelle will call somebody, and she'll get some, okay.
It's nice to have friends that have veteran years.
The veteran years, in other words, old folks.
Yeah.
Friends? What are those?
So, yeah, you don't have friends. That's true. Oh, well. I tell you what, let's do, guys. We've got some great callers here. They've been on hold for a little while. Let's get to them, and because I don't want to make them wait any longer than we have to. Dave's on line, too. He's out of Michigan. Hey, Dave, thank you for your patience. How are you?
Hey, no problem. I'm pretty good. How are you?
I am good. So what are you thinking here?
Well, I like to think of myself as a member of your Truth Squad.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm trying to get some nugget out of the loss in Washington State to that universal background check bill.
Okay.
And it occurred to me, and I listened to your show and I didn't hear it mentioned. It occurred to me that the anti-gunners have, for at least 2 years now, since Sandy Hook, been touting this number of 90% of the people want universal background checks.
Mm-hmm.
Well, after they outspent the gun rights people, what you said, 8-1 roughly,
8-1.
They were able to garner 60% on that initiative.
Which is a long way from 90.
Which kind of belies what they've been saying in real numbers, not some telephone survey or
mm-hmm.
something where they contrive something. That's real numbers.
You know what? That's a great point, because you're right. When they're doing the polling, they throw out this thing of, would you support background checks for buying a gun? They phrase it in such a way to make it sound like there are currently no background checks required when you buy a gun. So everybody goes, well, that sounds okay. We'll do that. But to your point, Dave, there was a lot of information given out in Washington State, so the public actually got to hear a lot more about it in more detail. Now, they got brainwashed, and the media bought in huge. I mean, the media was essentially all organized in favor of more gun control. But interestingly, law enforcement was not. Law enforcement went the other way, and the media wouldn't report, like that the Sheriff's Association opposed it. It was a fascinating look at what happens if you can't get your message out. And Dave, I think that's the takeaway on this, is that we were unable to get our message out because, number one, the media won't cover it fairly. And you go, okay, well, then the way around that is you go buy the ads. But if you don't have the money to buy enough exposure, then you literally can't get your message out. And the other side wins by virtue of getting this message out. How do we go from here, learn from it, and take advantage of it and use it?
Obviously, the gun rights organizations need money to fight. So, definitely joining the organizations. I like Gun Owners of America and the NRA. I'm a little disappointed, I guess, that the NRA didn't fight a little harder on the Washington one, but I don't know if they felt they were just being so outspent that it wouldn't have made any difference. I don't know what their rationale was.
I honestly think you're probably right. I think they probably looked at it up front and said, this is a loser. We don't want to get involved because we don't want to touch this loser. And something I didn't talk about, and nobody wants to talk about this because it's the third rail or the elephant in the room. The Toomey Manchin bill of, was it last year, national bill? It was basically a national background check. And Alan Gottlieb at the time said, and I didn't support it, He said, look, guys, he said, here's the deal. Look at the long term. If we don't pass something on a national level, we will get this in state after state after state, and it will be much, much worse. So let's get a little bit that we can grit our teeth and do something with this, and we'll have a part of writing it and get it over with now, and that'll trump everything that's going to go on in the states. And I didn't get on board, and the gun community didn't get on board, and
I think I remember Alan Gottlieb changing his position and deciding against it before it came up for a vote anyway.
He may have right at the very end, because it was kind of a moving target. They kept changing what the bit was actually in the bill, which is always the other point there too. So I'm kind of like, I think a lot of us were looking at this and going, okay, we see what just happened and we know what needs to happen. We simply need more money. And if we don't get it, we will lose. This is a very simple equation. If we don't come up with not just a little bit more money, but a whole lot more money, we will lose in state after state after state. And so we're either going to find some billionaires out there, or each of us has to say, okay, instead of spending $20 on this a year, I'm going to spend $100 a year on this, because that's what it's going to take. And here's the real question is, will people who are not really into gun politics do it just because, there may be 100 million gun owners, but they're not really into the gun politics. Will they write a check? Will they write a check for $100? A lot of people can't or won't. I don't know. Dave, look, I appreciate your call. I think we're going to keep Dave on hold here because he wants to kind of tag along and listen. Let's go down and talk to Bruce on line 4, North Bend, Oregon. Hey, Bruce, what you got on your mind?
I have a .32 Winchester Special. And I've heard people say that you could take a 30-30 cartridge and neck it up for reloading. I just wanted to see what your thoughts were.
I have never loaded a .32 Special. I'm going to have to look. Let's see. .32 Special looks like it was originally formed off of the 30-30, but I'm not sure. Honestly, I would have to go look at the reloading data on it. Do you load for it at all?
I have not. I'm thinking about it because it's hard to find ammo. And I'm just starting to get into it a little bit. And I'm thinking, that would be a smart one to do, because that way I wouldn't have as much trouble finding the ammo. And Hornady has the bullets for it. But the cases are kind of a rare thing to find. But either read or I talked with somebody and they said, you can take a 30-30 and neck it up.
And without looking it up, I'm hesitant to say that you can. I would have to, because this is the kind of thing that you don't mess around with. And let me see. I'm doing some reading as we're talking. I'm not finding any reference to be able to do that. But I would say get a hold of a good loading manual and check that out and see what they say. But off the top, I don't know if you can do that. Of course, the other thing is, if you could find 100 rounds of brass for a 32, then you're probably good for life, because you're just, you're not going to wear it out.
Yeah.
Now, there is ammo available. I mean, there are companies that are loading 32 Winchester. Hornady has it in their Lever Evolution ammo. I'm looking, Remington has it. Let me see. Oh, Hornady is in stock, and Remington's out of stock. But if you just do a Google search for 32 Winchester Special, you're going to find places that have the ammo. And you can buy it, and they'll send it directly to your house. That's okay. I
was just kind of curious about that idea, because I was thinking, the 30-30 is really easy to find. I'm just thinking.
Of course it is. And I don't know. It may well be that you can neck it up. I just, without looking it up, I wouldn't offer that, and I've never done it myself, so I don't know. So I'm just trying to be a little bit cautious on that. But if you could research that yourself on that. But in the meantime, you can find ammo for it. I appreciate the call, sir. Let me, before we get to our break, guys, let's get Tom in here off of line 3. He's in Kentucky. Hey, Tom, you're on Gun Talk.
Hey, Tom, how's it going today?
Good. What do you think about what we're trying to learn out of Washington State here?
I think Dave is pretty close, too. But I think what we learned is that having a competing bill might have been putting money into something to try to educate people. If we go with this, maybe this will help. And, maybe it would have just been better to take and put out an ad showing, this basically the left side Koch money coming in that they do with us all the time with, the Koch brothers and this, that, and everything. Just let people know that, all these guys and Tom Steyer, want to take away freedom. They don't want to help you. You know, just basically a simple education, and just kind of keep it lighthearted, and, you know, say, hey, you know, these guys are, you know, their whole idea is to take and be nanny of the world, but, you know, that means that they don't trust you to have an opinion, or, you know, just simple ads like that.
But here's the thing. They're putting out an ad that says children are being killed in schools, and you could do something about it by voting for this. That's their message. Nobody wants to hear about the long game in this or about finances. I mean, their message is really just that. Children are being killed in schools with guns, and you can do something about it by voting for this. That's it. So what do you, okay, you've got 10 seconds to rebut that. What do you do?
More people die on the roads with semis, and yet they let people drive semis.
So, and everybody's going to go, so that I can't do anything about that. I can vote for this, and I can save children.
Part of the learning process, isn't it?
It's difficult. That's my point. It's always been difficult. For the last 40 years, I've been saying the problem is we have facts on our side, and we are correct. They have emotion, and they can do a message with emotion in 10 seconds, and it takes us 30 to 60 seconds to try to, you know, rebut that. And we don't have 30 to 60 seconds. It has been our challenge all along is if I can get a minute or 2 or 3 minutes with somebody, I can get the message to them. But if all I've got is 10 seconds, it's a tough sell because our message is informational. Our message is factual, and theirs is based off of feeling. If you love your child, you will do this. Simple. That's it. I don't disagree with you. I'm just trying to point out the difficulty of it. So I think our takeaway for all of us is going to be, let's look at what happened here. We better all come together. One of the things, guys, is that we have the Gun Owners of America, and we have Second Amendment Foundation, and we have the NRA, and have a few other groups. It is my impression, and you know how much I support the NRA, but it's also my impression that they very much have a not invented here attitude. If it doesn't start from here, if it is not our idea, we will not support it.
I don't know what that stems from. I don't know if it's not wanting to put, you know, someone's proverbial foot in one's mouth. I don't know.
Or do you think it's just because they're the first, they're the biggest, they're the best?
Yeah.
Or is it money?
Well, yeah, they don't have an unlimited supply. I mean, and like you said, they got to pick and choose kind of what they want to support and what they want to put advertising out for. Well,
no, I'm thinking is it money? They don't want to support any other group because they're always trying to say, send us money. I mean, not a case of what are we spending money on, but how can we make money?
They made money when they lowered the cost of those lifetime memberships last year, 2 years ago. They did.
Yeah. Did you notice that we sent them $5 million last year?
Yeah.
$5 million from Gun Talk listeners.
Wow.
Isn't that something?
And only half of that came out of Michael's pocket, actually.
That's true. That's true. That's why he has to drive that truck.
Speaking of money, why don't we make a little here?
We'll make a little money. We'll take a break here. We'll and don't go away because there's some good information in these little spots that we do because there are all kind of special, cool things going on. We'll come back in just a second.
Want your next gun purchase to be fast and hassle-free? Well, at galleryofguns.com, you can search through thousands of models from our huge firearms inventory. Find a great offer from a local dealer that includes all fees and taxes. And there's no need to arrange a transfer. Gallery of Guns takes a small deposit on your credit card, and your gun will be at your chosen dealer in as little as 48 hours. Plus, your gun will be covered by our guaranteed lifetime replacement warranty. Galleryofguns.com. Search, find, buy. It really is just that easy.
And now we are back. We're talking with Michael, Michelle, and Jim, and we were talking about kind of the lessons to be learned from all of that. But I want to spin back to something we talked about earlier in the show, guys. This story about the guy who chased down this guy who snatched his 5-year-old daughter, was going across the front lawn, and the father went out there and stopped him and got his daughter back. But the bad guy just walked into the house because it was unlocked. And Jim, was it you who was talking about the Detroit riots?
Yeah, I was raised in Detroit, and we never literally left our keys in the ignition. Actually, in the cars, you didn't even need them in the ignition if you just left them in the on position. you could take your key and start it. But that's
true.
That's an aside here. Yeah, we never locked our doors at night or anything else. And then the riots of '67 hit, and we haven't unlocked them since.
Don't you guys find that that's the case with a lot of people? Everything is fine and rosy until you run smack dab against reality, and then you go, oh, well.
Right. You don't get that innocence back until you lose it. It's gone, you know?
Well, yeah, roll that over into the home invasions. Home invasions, are taking place. They're not happening in the hood only. They're happening in highfalutin areas. I mean,
everywhere.
They can happen anywhere, yeah.
And think about it. I mean, you think like a bad guy. It's like when you sell burglar alarm systems, for example. You have to think like a crook when you're installing them, and how are they going to get in, what are they going to do.
Home invasions, let's talk about that for a second. Not late at night, often in the middle of the day, and people say, well, yeah, I lock my doors at night. No, you lock your doors when you're in the house, period. Well, yeah, but it's a pain to go in and out. Yeah, it is. That's the cost.
Yep.
And, and yes, I wish we could leave them unlocked. And yes, we end up paying the price for what those other people do. But to pretend it's otherwise is, I don't know, I would call it foolish.
High in the sky, it's how things should be. And if we all just lived like that, wouldn't it be great?
Kumbaya, baby.
Yeah. Oh, my thought process is think like a scumbag. You're going to try to bust into somebody's house who probably doesn't have much money, might have drugs you're after, but you're going to go to a neighborhood where you can make a buck or two, I would think.
Well, I don't know. I don't think there's any rhyme or reason. We can't really apply what we consider to be reasonable thought processes to criminals because, by definition, they don't follow the law and they don't think rationally like we do. I was robbed in the house that I was in previously, I think 6 times in a 6-year period.
You were robbed?
The house was. I was not physically robbed.
No,
the house was burglarized. I should have put it that way. Yeah.
Okay.
So that kind of puts you in a different kind of a mindset. I would venture to say a very defensive one.
Yeah. Sure.
But, there won't be a time now in the new house where there is not a single time where all the doors are not locked. I mean, even the door to my basement is always locked because, hey, there are windows in the basement. Mm-hmm. You never know. I don't need that anymore in my life.
People sometimes think we're paranoid and fear-mongering people. We're constantly being that person that is ridiculed or put to shame because we believe in the safety of firearms and we believe in that Second Amendment right. I think the election spoke out with some of that as to where we stand and what we're going to tolerate, but there's so much work that needs to be done to keep the fight going. And if we don't change that picture, I don't know where we're going to go.
I ran into something interesting recently, talking to a woman who's gotten into shooting. I'm trying to remember, was this on the show a couple of weeks ago, guys, when the lady says, I didn't pay any attention to politics, to gun politics, until I became a shooter. And where I'm going with this is this all-women's 3-gun competition. The more women you get involved in shooting, the more families who are going to be involved in gun politics and trying to protect gun rights. And while that is certainly a long-term program, I think it's a worthwhile program. I just find that people who just don't pay attention, they go with a bumper sticker thing. It's just not part of their lives. Most people, gun rights are not part of their lives.
Well, it's the same mindset we were just discussing the other thing about thinking like them. If you're a woman and you hear guys, constantly harping on this, that, and the other thing, you kind of tune them out. I mean, that's how I've stayed married. My wife tunes me out.
Oh my gosh.
So if you're
smart woman,
yeah, exactly. If you're hearing it constantly from somebody, and in this case, women hearing it from guys, they may tune it out. Now they hear a woman could say the exact same thing to them, and it's like, wow, that's eye opening, and that's great. Tell me more. I think that's human nature.
Or they're not hearing it at all, which is more likely. If you're not into guns. Mm-hmm. You're not going on to gun websites. You're not listening to gun radio. You just are not at all. You don't ever hear a gun rights message, ever.
Yeah, good point.
You simply have never been exposed to it. And then this comment this woman said was, I had no idea that people were trying to take away our gun rights all the time and that it's a constant battle. She just had no idea. And I'm going, I know I've only been talking about it for 40 years.
Right, and that's ignorance. It's not a
that's all
derogatory
it's just
thing.
Ignorance means you're just unaware of something.
Yep.
Well, you're going to listen to the media, and unfortunately, we're being held responsible for the mass shootings that are occurring around the world in your local schools. And when the media picks that up, and that mom who's not into firearms and never hears the good positive stories that are out there, get on the internet, they're there, there's a lot of them, then they believe, yeah, guns are bad. They're bad, they're bad, they're bad. Look at what they're doing.
You know what we should do, Tom? In our meta tags for our podcasts, we should put words like recipes, knitting, and attract not just
done.
You laugh. Let me spin off of that.
Serious.
What if we encourage people to, going back to what Michelle said, there are a lot of these stories about successful uses of guns in self-defense, protecting yourself, protecting your family, saving your children. Some way, for some smart person, smarter than me, to figure out how to really tap into social media to get those messages out, not to the hundreds and thousands of us, but to the tens of millions of people who aren't seeing them now. Now there's a project worthy of funding.
I agree.
It would have to be, the only thing people respond to on the internet anymore is funny cat pictures and celebrity gossip and celebrities running their mouth when they shouldn't. And it would have to be probably somebody that was typically anti-gun or that you wouldn't see as a gun kind of advocate going out there and tweeting something like, hey, went out to the range today, safety's awesome, something like that. I just don't see it happening. It's career suicide for these actors and celebrities to go out and
yeah, but a lot more of them are doing it on our side lately.
That's true. Lately, yes, that's true.
But why do we have to rely on the celebrity world?
That's what I'm saying, but that's all there is that these people pay attention to because they're so involved in Dawson's Creek's not even on the air anymore. You see what I'm saying? But TV,
right.
TV and the Honey Boo Boo scandal, that they don't even pay attention to the things that really do affect their lives.
Don't talk about that. It's really a touchy subject with me.
But I agree with you, Tom. I think if there's a spot that you go and you know that it's true, reported case information, I think it could turn people around. And there's a lot of them.
Let me give out a couple of sites that list self-defense gun uses. KeepandBearArms.com and GunsSaveLives.net, I believe it is.
What if somebody with money was the sponsor, just like on the local TV station, the defensive shooting of the week or defensive gun situation of the week?
I already do that in my morning newscast. If it comes up, I'm the first one to report on it. But, it's going to take the small communities, the individual television and radio stations and the media personalities to do that and to get that message up because the mainstream media is not going to do it.
I'm talking about a sponsor of the show.
Right.
Who buys a 15-second blurb. They obviously plug their company, but in it they show a positive use of a firearm or just the presence of it prevented such and such this week.
Well, what that's going to take is somebody who owns a business saying, this is important to me. I will contact a local radio station or somebody, and I'll say, I will give you advertising dollars to do this. And if they come through the sales side of things, that's how things happen.
Money talks, yeah.
Money always talks. But you also say, okay, but does the guy who owns or the lady who owns the car dealership, is it important enough to them to say, I will put $100 or $200 a week into this?
At the risk of alienating some people that are anti-gun too.
That's the other side.
But that's the beauty of free market, there are a lot of people that aren't religious. They go to a shop with, religious symbols on their business because they can understand where the people that are coming from. So they go to that business. The market will work that out.
Chick-fil-A.
Yeah, if you want to go somewhere that offers smoking, you go somewhere that offers smoking.
But if you're in the business, realistically, if you're in the business of selling cars, let's go back to the car dealership. You say, okay, I like this. I support gun rights. I'm going to do this thing. And you do that, and you start getting calls from people that say, I'm not going to buy a car from you because of this. You're going to pull them.
Right.
You just say, okay, this is going to cost me $100,000 in sales a year. That's stupid. I'm in business to sell cars.
And the people that buy cars because he is pro-gun are unlikely to, pat him on the back, thank him.
Well,
hey, love your ads.
That spins right back to what we've talked about all the time, which is thanking people. If there's a station that's running gun talk, call them and thank them. If there's a police chief who says something positive about concealed carry and the role of people taking care of themselves, say thank you. Call, drop them a note, do something. Otherwise, they run in a vacuum and they think, well, maybe that wasn't such a smart thing. So, once again, we each have to commit something. And that something is, it's two things, time and money.
Yep.
Always comes down to that, doesn't it?
Sounds familiar, huh?
Time and money. I do want to at least kind of touch on this concept of, and send everybody away with the idea of thinking about your responsibility to your family and what is your system, what is your layers of defense, of protection, lights, locks, alarms, dogs, whatever it happens to be, awareness drills, talking with your family about what are we going to do if, on and on and on, that kind of stuff. It's just so critical. It's because whenever the bad thing happens, is not the time to try to come up with a plan.
Absolutely
Woulda, shoulda, coulda.
Well, people with young kids, they'll say, okay, if there's a fire, this is what you got to do. This is the exit. This is where we're going to meet up with mommy and daddy. Here's how you call the police, yada, yada, yada. I mean, that you go over these safety plans. I think it's just as important to do it with firearms, if not more so. Hey, if it's late at night and you come home and you're a teenage kid or whatever, you announce yourself. You do things the right way. Don't try to sneak around. It's important to address these things because talking is free. It's important.
I think it's important, too, to practice these drills not using your cell phone, not relying on electricity.
Yep. Exactly.
Those things, if chaos were to happen, then those are some of the things that are going to be cut off from you. Yes, you may still have your cell phone. Your landline's not going to be there most likely. Your electricity most likely isn't going to be there. They're going to cut those wires. They're going to get into the house. And that might seem abrupt to some people, but that is what happens.
It doesn't have to be someone intent on doing you harm. It could be a natural disaster. It could be the power grid goes down. We have sun flares, whatever. You got to have this stuff discussed beforehand because, like you said, it's too late when it's happening.
Right.
And Tom, you may not be aware of this, but Michael and I are actually, next week, we're teaching a concealed smoke signals course.
When all goes down, now you're going to be fighting over matches.
That's right. That's right.
And then we have that dryer lint thing. Oh, my goodness.
Yeah.
There's a callback.
Great. So for those who are thinking their cell phone is the answer, just understand that whatever happens will be over in 30 seconds.
Right.
Yep.
I mean, that's the deal. So, okay, you can hold your breath for 30 seconds. That's how long this thing is going to be.
This may be paranoid, but this is something that I've thought about recently. I don't know if people notice this or not, but on new cell phones, touchscreen cell phones, if your fingers are wet, if they're, for instance, covered in your own blood, your phone isn't going to work. You can't dial out if it's wet. So I'm serious.
If
you get a little bit of moisture on your finger, your screen's going to act erratic. If you're holding a wound on your chest, your arm, whatever, and you're trying to dial 911, good luck.
Well, not only that, but they're going to be little inundated with phone calls
right.
if something should happen, too.
But you should always have a plan.
Right.
Hey, if you're out in public and you can't get to your phone or whatever, what are you going to do? You should think about, you owe that to yourself.
Right. No, Tom, I think you're exactly right. You need to have those layers, onion, layers and layers and layers and layers of what you're going to do.
And what I want to do is have enough layers to where I never have to use the gun that I pretty much always have with me.
Right.
Because that means things have really gone bad. So I'd like to avoid that if at all possible. And it just I guess, encouraging people to sit and think, which is really what a lot of this is just saying, okay, let me think about how this would go down. Part of that is being a student. Don't you guys find you have to be a student of safety, of self-defense, or have to read reports, read crime reports, read stories, how do the bad guys operate? Okay, what would I do about that?
Think like a crook, yeah.
Right. Every TV show is some kind of a cop or a fire show or a hospital show right now. Mm-hmm. And I think even though there is obviously entertainment factor to that, they're all based off of something that really did happen. Those ideas just didn't come out of thin air. So while you're being entertained, that stuff really happens.
Just be careful not to pay too much attention to their horrible grip, stance, and finger trigger control and stuff like that.
Actually, that's gotten better, though. Have you noticed there's a lot?
It has a lot
criminal
better.
minds, they're really good with it.
Yeah, because people, with the advent of the Internet, they're able to go to these producers and say, hey, you're an idiot. That's not how it's done.
Right. That tactfully.
Yeah.
That's right. Exactly right. All righty, guys. Well, let's wrap it up. We'll I'll be a little bit safer. We're going to think about it a little bit more. We're heading in toward the holiday season. We ought to think in terms of including in the upcoming shows kind of holiday safety tips.
Yeah. Shopping, parking lots late at night. Very good time of year for it.
Reloading sober.
Using
There
the right
you
kind
go.
of oil in your turkey fryer.
Yeah.
Deep frying a frozen turkey, always a bad idea.
Water and grease.
But it does make for a good YouTube video.
Who needs tannerite?
Oh, there you go. By the way, I just heard of a guy, was it Ohio? Somewhere, just got arrested for having a whole bunch of tannerite. They had changed the law there.
Yeah, Ohio has changed their tannerite stuff, yeah.
That's where it was. It was Ohio.
Probably was, yeah.
The first guy got arrested, and big story about having explosives and firearms. So you need to know if you've got these otherwise legal exploding targets. If the law has changed in your state, you better be aware, because people say, well, they're not going to arrest me for that. Yes, they will, and they will send you to prison.
And it's like fireworks, man. The places that it's illegal to shoot the stuff off at are still selling it. So you got to be really careful. Don't pull what I almost did and say, oh, they're selling it. It must be legal. No, not necessarily.
Some places it's legal to have things and not to sell them, and other places it's legal to sell it and not to have it. Makes no sense.
Yeah, but knowing the laws is great. You can still have a lot of fun legally. You don't have to try to sidestep something to have a good time.
That's right. There's always gasoline. I mean, you don't need other stuff.
So how do you feel about accelerants?
That's why we watch these firefighting shows. We can learn all about these things.
I have an off-air story. I'll tell you about that. Okay.
All right, guys. Well, look, I appreciate it. You guys be safe for this week. Keep your doors locked, okay?
Absolutely.
Thanks, Tom. Have a great day.
Take care.
All right.
So, how did you like basking in the glow of the Gun Talk After Show? I just made that up. We hang around and talk a little more after the radio show every week. You can get it on your computer, iPhone, iPad, and we have a new Gun Talk app that makes it real easy for your Android or iPhone. And we're always hanging out at guntalk.com. Next week, Tom, Jim, Michelle, and Michael will be hanging around after the radio show for another Gun Talk After Show. We hope to see you right here then. Bye.